Hey everyone. I'm reading a book. I do a lot of reading. We're going to be going away on a cruise over Christmas, and I'm going to be taking with me some homework. Going to be taking with me some books. I just had them delivered from Amazon, so I've got my reading list kind of set up. I'm starting to ask some other people, should I read any other books when I'm on the cruise ship, having my margaritas, watching the world go by. And I'm taking suggestions for books as well too. But wanted to do this quick little video about a project that I'm working on in my office. I'm reading the book from Billy Bishop called New Factory Thinker. It's opening up my eyes in a lot of different ways. One, I have ADHD, so I think differently about a lot of stuff. That's why when you look in my office is a little bit more unique with Snuffleupagus up there. I know all the data there is to know about Snuffleupagus. So I just think differently. I see things differently. I see opportunities differently. And I also manage projects differently because I get into them up to my eyeballs. So Bill's book, I think, is really great reading because it talks about the new factory. So when you think about it, we got into this mentality of everything factory. When Henry Ford built the modern manufacturing line, 1913, when my grandparents were born. And modern factory thinking worked well for my grandparents. They worked in factories, and they had jobs and they got pensions. They didn't use their pensions very long because they died very early. The average life expectancy back then was not very good because they were working in manufacturing plants. And there wasn't as much health and safety requirements in manufacturing plants. My one grandfather passed away of Parkinson's disease, more genetic. But my other grandfather died of lung diseases, partially from smoking, but complications from all of the other things that he was breathing every day, all the particulate, which now is one of those things that we don't have as much of. We still have a little bit of it in our industrial settings, but not very much. But Bill's book gets you to think about your business model and how it's not your business model. The best business is a business for the people. And how you end up building your business not around you, but around a niche that you're helping people with, a service that you can provide to them, your big idea, basically. Now, that big idea gets you to start to think about the platform. And then that gets you to start thinking about the services that you put on the platform. Now, your platform starts this small, but then it grows over time as well, too. So then as it's growing, you're thinking about new services that you're trying to put on the platform, new directives that you're putting on the platform. You might steer off into a completely different spot. That might not have anything to do with your platform. But then maybe that's another platform. And that's okay too. Because your business doesn't have to just be, I only cut hair for a living. You could also do other things too with your business. It's your business. It's what I do. There's lots of things that interest me that I've built a business around. It all comes together at the end of the day for tax season. Some parts of the business are actually a loss. Some parts of the business are actually big gains. And the losses offset the gains, but that's okay too. But then as you build out your platform, you start to really focus. And then your platform just becomes rock solid, hammer down. And then everything becomes easier. Because you're the go-to for that thing. And if you're the go-to for that thing in your city, then you're doing a hell of a lot of business. And you don't have any competitors that can come in and snap up a percent. They can always nip at your heels, but that's all they can do is nip at your heels. Now, the other thing is that as you're building out platforms, you start to see everybody else's platform in a little different way. And you start to see the holes in their platforms. It's like, oh, I'm thinking about a campaign in Amherstburg, to be honest with you. It's a small little market. They only sold 6 houses there this week. I control 1% of the market in Amherstburg this year. I've sold 3 houses there, listed 3 houses there, and sold 3 houses there. So I control 1% of that market. And I'm like, I know how I would go and create a platform for Amherstburg. And I know that I'd be able to probably do 10 listings there. But Amherstburg's far. It's 45 minutes one way. And I am a little bit more of an old school guy who would prefer rather to be there. So there's those yawns. There's a massive opportunity in Amherstburg. I see the opportunity because I see the weaknesses of the 2 realtors that operate in Amherstburg, or the 2 big real estate teams. There's actually technically 3 big teams there. And I see the weaknesses, and I know what the weaknesses are. One is the brokerage. They're all with the same brokerage. And I see the weaknesses at the brokerage level as well, too. So I don't really need to go to Amherstburg. But that doesn't mean I couldn't be investing in a realtor who does want to go to Amherstburg and work their butt off and capture market share, because I know how we would do it. And maybe that's what's coming down the pike for 26, 27, 28. Who knows what that is? Because once you start building out your platform and you start concreting over your platform to make it as strong and as rock solid as humanly possible, you see everybody else's platform. You're like, oh, hey, there's an opportunity there. There's a great opportunity there. And then you also see other people, like there's a realtor here in town that just bought a place in Tecumseh. He has a massive team. He doesn't build any specific niche, but he's a broad form kind of guy. We're all over the place. Yeah, you are. We're omnipresent. Yes, you are. But that's his thing. That's his platform. I want to be omnipresent, and it's about me. Well, real estate's no longer about that any longer. That's old factory thinking. Maybe there's ways to be able to start knocking him down a bit too, taking some of that volume away. Of course, I do that on a regular basis. I just do. There's 5 or 6 transactions this year that didn't go to his team because they were also interviewing me. And when I know who I'm competing against, there's no competition. Just is what it is. But that's also part of all the letters and designations and experience as well, too. So for 2025, there's going to be some new things coming to the platform as well, that will stay focused in the seniors market, both the live seniors market and the dead seniors market. They're coming. And High Volume Road is getting launched as well, too, with a massive advertising campaign, probably in the second half of the year. Got to do a little bit more research yet first from a compliance perspective to be able to know exactly what the marketing message can be, so that I have the documentation on file to be able to back up that marketing message. There's something big coming. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. It was very interesting to look at 2024, where all the money came from. Thank you. And then it was also very interesting to be able to plot out to 2025 and what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking 40 transactions in 2025. I did 26 26, 24. Probably have 2 more yet coming. 26 probably by the time I get to December, which is a really, really great year. Thank you very, very much. And it's not about me at all. It's about serving my clients and helping them move into their chapters of their life. It's not about me and my life. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Bye-bye.